All right, CES 2024, day 2, coming to an end. Guess who I'm interviewing? Eben from Raspberry Pi.
There we are.
So great to see you, man. I am a fan as well, just like Nico. And I got to tell you, I know that your user base is unreal. And I want to know why you're pumped, why you're here. Why are you at CES?
Well, I came to CES 12 years ago so that was 8 weeks before we shipped the first Raspberry Pi, and I've actually not been to CES since.
Oh.
And there's been this huge evolution since.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we've gone from no Raspberry Pis to, I think we're at about 56 million. We should have about 56 million Raspberry Pis since I was at CES last. So I thought it was a good time to come back.
Yeah.
The guys, so Sam and Chris, who've been here all week, they were telling me that the big change that's happened since they were at CES, certainly before the pandemic, if you were at CES in 2019, 2020, what you'd see is enormous numbers of Raspberry Pis out there on the floor being used for prototyping, being used as in test harnesses, being used for prototyping products. The big thing that's changed since then is there are even more Raspberry Pis out there, and they're being used in production, right?
Exactly.
So what we're seeing is this evolution, particularly, I think a lot of this is driven by Compute Module 4. You're seeing people actually going, and that's really the aspiration. Yeah, we don't want to sell. Yeah, well, we want to be helpful, right? So we want people to use Raspberry Pis for whatever they want to use Raspberry Pis for. But our aspiration is that people stay with us, not just for prototyping, but all the way through to production. And this is the CES where you see that's really starting to happen.
It's finally gelling. Yeah, I get you, and I fully agree. And I'm not an engineer, and I'm not a computer expert, so that's my full disclosure. But
I have to say I'm a recovering engineer. I mean, I'm a regretfully I don't wish to recover. I don't have. One of the terrible things for me is that we've built this amazing toy. I mean, the Raspberry Pi is just one of the. It's the. I would have given my right arm, my left arm for one of these things. For a thing, a tenth the power of a Raspberry Pi 1. That would make it, if it was a tenth of the power of Raspberry Pi 1, that would make it a 1500th the power of a Raspberry Pi 5. I would have given my right arm for one of those when I was a kid. Yeah. So I built the toy I always wanted, and I spend my time running the Raspberry Pi company. I don't spend my time playing with the toy I built. But, I was an engineer once.
That's one of the downfalls of leading the company. But let me pivot a little bit. So one of the things that we've developed recently, which I feel you guys are getting pretty excited, is this thermally conductive polycarbonate. And why am I getting excited about it? Doesn't matter. I want to hear why you think it might make a difference for your users.
Well, it's fascinating, right? I mean, we used to the idea of plastic pretty much as being an insulator, right? A thermal insulator. As Raspberry Pis have got more powerful over the years, they've also become more thermally conductive. Well, they have become more thermally they've become more thermally generating.
Yes.
And in order to keep the heat under control, they've had to become more thermally conductive. So you look at the design of a Raspberry Pi PCB now, if you hold a Raspberry Pi 1 and you hold a Raspberry Pi 4 or a Raspberry Pi 5 in your hand, you can tell what we did, right? Which is we packed the middle of that object with copper. Right, so every layer of that PCB is plated to within an inch of its life. The wonderful, I think, is it 2 ounce per square foot? I love these wonderful measurements. I believe that's 70 microns in modern units, right? So these things are plated up as hard as you can to get as much heat as you can away from the CPU. On the big product, you want to get heat away from the CPU. You want to get to the connector shells because you have the metal around the USB. Actually, an HDMI cable will sink a hell of a lot of heat if you can just get the heat across the HDMI socket. So an enormous amount of thermal engineering goes into the product. What's been fascinating looking at the Covestro-based plastic solution is that you're putting plastic. There are Compute Module 4s out there. You're putting plastic on top of the product, and I'm thinking, well, that's going to cause the temperature of the product to go up.
You're going to fry,
and it makes the temperature of the product go down.
Right.
And that's something. And what's really fascinating is it's able to do that without interfering with the Wi-Fi performance. Because you can't think, that's an incredible thing to do with plastic. But what you're going to have done basically is to make the thing electrically conductive. And if you make the thing electrically conductive, then it's going to short out the E field, and then you're going to get no radio. And so it's interesting that I know that you do have ones which are electrically conductive, but that you have a middle ground, some of these additives which get almost all the thermal performance of the electrically conductive design, but without interfering with the radio.
And I am super pumped because, again, I feel I've seen it in so many, let's call them IoT, which in my lingo is intelligence of things. Things become intelligent, not Internet of Things. There are so many of them out there.
That's very modern. That's the AIoT thing, the AIoT corniche.
It's a very opportunity-rich environment.
Well, we're super excited about, think about what is Raspberry Pi enabling people to do.
Exactly.
It's enabling people to deploy intelligence into the world at a much higher density than you could do with higher cost legacy platforms. That's super exciting.
On the edge.
Yeah, on the edge. And, we are, naturally, it's nice to go win sockets. The idea of winning sockets is great. In practice, what we're doing, because of the price performance point, we're creating sockets. We're creating opportunities to do compute, positive ROI opportunities to do compute. If the two ways to win an ROI argument, right?
Yep.
You can increase the return or you can reduce the investment. If you reduce the investment, you vastly increase, even a little reduction in the investment, vastly increase, and the capital investment and the running cost. You vastly increase the number of available sockets, and so we're creating these sockets and we're taking these sockets, and it's super exciting.
I am pumped, and I have to say to the people that are watching, stay tuned. Hold on to your seats. It's going to be a wild ride. Yeah. Thank you, Eben.
No, thank you very much indeed. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Take care.
Cheers.